Hi everyone, it's Maddie Calzon with video number 4. The domain is number and operations in base 10. The cluster number is 2, which will perform operations with multi-digit numbers and with decimals to hundredths. The first concept is to fluently multiply multi-digit numbers using the standard algorithm. The second concept is to find whole number quotient of whole numbers up to 4-digit dividends and 2-digit divisors, using strategies based on place value, the properties of operations, and or the relationship between multiplication and division. The third concept is to add, subtract, multiply, and divide decimals to hundredths using strategies based on place value, properties of operations, and or the relationships between addition and subtraction. So let's get started. Here for our first concept, we will be multiplying double two-digit or multi-digit numbers by each other. So our first equation is 45 times 23. So we first start with 3. We do 3 times 5, which is 15. And then we put the 1 over the 4. Then we have 4 times 3, which is 12. Then you add the 1 from the previous, which would get us 13. And so whenever you have a multi-digit number, when you're multiplying, you have to add a 0 when it's on the bottom. So since we have the 2, we have to add a 0 to the next row. So now that we have our 2's and we have our 3's out of the way, let's do the 2's. So we have 2 times 5, which is 10. Add the 0 here, put the 1 above the 4. Then we have 2 times 4, which is 8, plus the 1, which is 9. So then we add the 2 together to get 0 plus 5 is 5. 0 plus 3 is 3. 9 plus 1 is 10. So we have 1,035 as our answer. Let's go to the next problem. We have to start with the 2. So we have 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. Now we're going on to the 7. So we add another 0 here. And then we have 7 times 0, which is 0. Then 7 times 1, which is 7. Add these two together to get 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. 7 plus 0 is 7. So the answer is 720. Hopefully we got that. Let's move on to these example problems. Pause the video and work it out on a separate sheet of paper, and then we can check the answers together once we've all finished. Hopefully we all got some answers. Let's go ahead and check them to see if we're right. So on the left-hand side, we'll start with 61 times 84. We do 4 times 1 first, which will get us 4. Then 4 times 6, which will get us 24. Now we move on to the second row, so we add a 0. So let's do that. Then we have 8 times 1, which is 8. And then 8 times 6, which is 48. Now we're going to add these together. So we have 4 plus 0 is 4. 8 plus 4 is 12. Put the 1 over the 2. 8 plus 2 is 10 plus the 1 is 11. And then 4 plus the 1 is 5. So our answer is 5,124. It's a big number. Okay, hopefully we got that one right. Let's look at the next one. So we have to start with the 9. So 9 times 5 is 45. Put the 4 over the 2. Then we do 9 times 2, which is 8, plus 4 is 22. Now we go on to the next row, so we add a 0. And then we have, let me erase this. Then we have 4 times 5, which is 20. Put the 2 over the 2. Then we have 4 times 2, which is 8, plus the 2 is 10. Then we're going to add this all together to get 0 plus 5 is 5. 0 plus 2 is 2, 0 plus 2 is 2, and 1 plus 0 is 1. So our answer is 1,225. Hopefully we got all those right. Let's move on to the next concept. Okay, so here's our next concept. We have division of multi-digit numbers by another multi-digit number, so two-digit numbers into four-digit numbers specifically. On the left side, we have our first problem, which is 15 into 3,045. So let's first start with that. So we look at the first number, which is 3. And does 15 go into 3? No. So we put a 0 there. we go to the next number, so it's 30. So does 15 go into 30? Yes, it goes in twice. So we write twice, and then I like to write this multiplication sign here. So I remember to do 2 times 15 to get 30. And then you subtract it to get 0. You bring down that 4. Does 15 go into 4? No, so we put a 0. 0 times 15 is 0, so we subtract that, which gets us 4. Bring down that 5. 15, does 15 go into 45? Yes, it does. It goes in 3 times. So we do 3 times 15 to get us 45. Subtract that to get 0. So our answer is going to be 203. Okay, so for our next question, here on the right, we have 12 into 3,660. So first, does 12 go into 3? No. So we add 0. Does 12 go into 36, though? Yes, it goes in 3 times. So we do 3 times 12, which is 36. Subtract it to get 0. Bring down that 6. Does 12 go into 6? No, so we put a 0. Bring down that 0 after we subtract 0, which is always just 6. So then we bring down that. And then we say, does 12 go into 60? Yes, it does. It goes in 5 times. So we do 5 times 12, which is 60. Subtract the 2 to get 0. And so our final answer is 305. So hopefully we all understood that. Let's pause the video and do these example problems on another sheet of paper. Hopefully we all got some answers for these. Let's go ahead and check them together and see if we got them right. So we look at the first one on the left. It says 11 into 1,232. So we look and we see that 11 cannot go into 1, so we put a 0. Then we see 11 goes into 12. Well, that goes in once. So we do 1 times 11 to get us 11 minus 12, which is 1. Bring down the 3. So then does 11 go into 13? And that answer is yes, it goes in once. So we do 11 times 1, which is 11. So we write that down and subtract, which gets us 2. Then we bring down the 2. Does 11 go into 22? Yes, it goes in twice. So 2 times 11 is 22. Run out of space there. But then we know if we subtract 22 and 22, we get 0. So our final answer for this problem is 112. So now for the next problem, we have 14 into 4,214. So we look at the first one. 14 does not go into 4, so we put a 0. Then we look at the second number. 14 goes into 42 once. So then, oh, part of it does not go into once. That's silly. It goes in 3 times. So we do 3. Uh-oh, I'm still on my eraser. We do 3. So 3 times 14 is 42. Subtract to get 0. Then we look at the next number. We bring that down. There's 1. Does 14 go into 1? No, so we put a 0. Then we do 0 times 14 to get subtract, which is 1. Bring down the 4 to get 14. So does 14 go into 14? Of course, it goes in once. So we do 1 times 14 to get 14. We subtract to get 0. So our final answer is 301. So hopefully we got those answers correct, and we can move on to the next concept. So for our next concept, we are using numbers with decimal places to the hundredth, or place values to the hundredth. And so we're going to be multiplying, adding, subtracting, and dividing. So on the left-hand side, we have addition, which the key trick here is to make sure your decimals line up. Once you have your decimals lining up, everything else should be just like normal addition. So let's start with this. We have 1 9 hundredths plus 27 hundredths. So what we do is we start with this 9 and 7, add like normal. So 9 plus 7 is 16, put the 1 up here. 2 plus 0 is 2, plus the 1 is 3. Then we move our decimal point where we lined it up, so we move that decimal point down. And then we have 1 plus 0, which is 1. So our answer is 1.36. So let's look to the problem to the right. So we have multiplication by 2 numbers with hundredths in them. So we're going to multiply like what we learned earlier with multi-digit numbers, and then I'll show you what to do with the decimal points afterwards. So we have 2 times 8 first, which is 16. Put the 1 over the 5. Then we have 2 times 5, which is 10, plus the 1 is 1, and 1, so 11. And then we have the next row to do, so we add a 0, and then we have 7 times 8, which is 56, and then we have 7 times 5, which is 35, plus the 5 gets us 40. So we're going to add like we did in the previous concept, so we do 0 plus 6 is 6, 6 plus 1 is 7, 0 plus 1 is 1, and then we have 0 plus 4 is 4. So unlike earlier, we just had that as our answer, we have these decimals here. So we know that this decimal has 1, 2. So we know that it has 2 places to make it a whole number. So it's 1, 2. So we have 2 plus 2 is 4. So we can move this decimal over. 1, 2, 3, 4. So our actual answer is 0.4176. And that's what we would do for decimals. So when you have a decimal like here, what you would do is you would move the decimals how many places you needed to make it a whole number, which would be 2 on both sides. So it's 2 for the top, 2 for the bottom. So that's 4 places we have to move this over. So that's why we moved it over 1, 2, 3, 4 places, and that's where the decimal point ends up. Okay, so for our final problem, we have division. So what we like to do on this one with decimals is we like to make it a whole number to start with. So we do 1, 2 places over. So we move this one over. 1, 2 over. Oops, it's moving around. So we do 1, 2 over. So we know that the decimal point goes here. Right there. Okay. Okay, so from there what we do is we would divide like normal. So we have basically, now that we've moved over the decimal points, you want to look at it as if it was whole numbers. So you want to look at this as 4 and this as 8. So 4 goes into 0, 0 times. So we can do 4 times 0 is 0, subtract, bring down that 8. Then 4 goes into 8 twice. So 2 times 4 is 8, subtract them. So then the final answer is 2. And so that's how we would treat it if we were using decimals when dividing. So let's go on to some practice. So go ahead and pause the video and we'll do the problems together afterwards to check our answer. So hopefully we all got answers for these. Let's go ahead and work them out together. So first of all, on the left we have subtraction with decimals, and we look though and our decimals line up, so we can go ahead and subtract right off the bat. So we have 0 minus 5, which is 5. Let me erase this. And then we have 6 minus 4, so we got to borrow from the 3, make that a 14, so we have 8. Then we bring down that decimal point. And then we have 2 minus 2, which is 0. So our final answer is 0.85. Now to the next problem. We have multiplication. So we're going to deal with the decimals at the end. So we're just going to go ahead and multiply like normal. So we have 2 times 4, which is 8. 2 times 2, which is 4. Now we're going on to another row, so we add the 0. And then we have 6 times 4, which is 24. Then we have 6 times 2, which is 12, plus the 2. So we have 14. So then we add these together and we get 8, 8, 4, 1. And then we move our decimal point. So we moved it over to make a whole number 1, 2. And then we do 3. We do 3, 4. So we move this decimal point over to the other side. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4. So our final answer is 0.1488. So hopefully we all got that. Now we're going on to the last example problem. We have 0.9 divided into 0.72. So we move this over to make it a whole number twice. Move this over twice, and then we put our decimal point right here. And so then we divide like normal. So we treat it like a whole number. So we have 9 into 72. So 9 does not go into 7, so that's 0. So 0 times 9 is 0. Subtract. We have the 7, bring down the 2. So we have 9 into 72, which goes in 8 times. So 8 times 9 is 72. We subtract the 2 to get 0. So our final answer is 8. Hopefully we got those all right. Let's go ahead and wrap up this video with our overview. As you can see, we've learned a lot in this video. We've learned how to multiply multi-digit numbers. So we start on the right-hand side. We go 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. Once we start a new row, we add a 0. Then we do 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 1 is 3. Add them together to get our final answer of 320. We learned how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide decimals with other decimal numbers, so hundredths by hundredths specifically. We learned how to add, multiply, subtract, and divide them, which was awesome. And we also learned how to divide two-digit numbers into four-digit numbers and just bigger quantities of numbers with division, so we learned how to extend our division knowledge. So I hope this was a helpful video. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.